In the previous tutorial, we saw that the horrors of the Black Death encouraged challenges to the authority of the Catholic Church and its teachings. The Church was also weakened by a series of internal conflicts during the 14th century, which resulted in the so-called Babylonian captivity. This, like the Babylonian exile of the ancient Israelites, was a period of 70 years during which the Papacy moved from Rome, where it was an independent political power, to Avignon in France, where it was subject to pressure from the French king. This move began with a dispute between King Philip IV and Pope Boniface VIII, who, like most popes, was Italian, over the king's plans to use the funds of French churches to help pay for his war with England. This was a challenge to the authority of the Pope, whose office had gained a lot of influence during the Crusades, to the point that he considered himself superior to any European king. The king imprisoned a French bishop for siding with the Pope, and Boniface was in the process of excommunicating Philip when the king's Italian supporters beat him to death. In 1305, a French pope was chosen, who then moved his court to Avignon, and the 6 popes who came after him were also French. The Avignon popes acquired a reputation for corruption and a luxurious lifestyle, and Pope Gregory XI decided to move his court back to Rome in 1377. But after his death the following year, the Council of Cardinals were split over their choice of a successor. They first elected an Italian archbishop and then a Swiss one. The first remained in Rome as Urban VI, while the second went to Avignon as Clement VII. This dual papacy continued until 1409, when a new council, which took advantage of the opinion of some church lawyers that the cardinals should be allowed to meet even without the pope, gathered in Pisa to try and settle the dispute. In the end, they succeeded only in electing a third pope alongside the other 2, but in 1417, the Pisan and Roman popes agreed to step down, which effectively ended the schism. Though a clear boundary has often been placed between the end of the Middle Ages and the start of the Renaissance which followed it, the foundations of that Renaissance were already being laid in the 14th century. It began with a group of Italians known as humanists, because they emphasized human potential and human accomplishments, and especially the accomplishments of the ancient world, which medieval people often saw as much more impressive than their own. Their interest in the ancient world was limited to Rome, as the art and literature of ancient Greece were still somewhat unknown in much of Europe. One of the most important of these Italian humanists was Francis Petrarch, who wrote in both Latin and Italian and was a student of Roman literature. He was also responsible for the rediscovery of some of the letters of the Roman statesman Cicero, but the humanists' embrace of classical culture did not mean they chose to distance themselves from their Catholic identity. In fact, they wanted to integrate the two. Petrarch, for example, wrote a work of moral self-examination on the model of the Confessions of the ancient church father Augustine. And he also wrote an entirely secular epic about the Second Punic War fought between Rome and Carthage in the 2nd century BCE, in the classical tradition of writing poetic accounts of historical events. The poet Dante, on the other hand, wrote a religious epic, the Divine Comedy, in which the narrator goes on a tour of heaven and hell in the company of the ancient Roman author Virgil. Even before the rise of Italian humanism, the intellectuals of Western Europe had some familiarity with ancient philosophical texts, and in particular the writings of Aristotle, which had largely been translated into Latin in Spain during the 12th century. These translations had been made from Arabic versions, which had been written and commented upon by Muslim philosophers, and they were made available to Spanish Christians once they began to conquer the Muslim states in the southern part of the peninsula. The idea that the teachings of a pagan thinker like Aristotle could coexist alongside the doctrines of the Christian faith was promoted by the theologians called scholastics, or schoolmen, such as the Italian Thomas Aquinas, the French Peter Abelard, and the English Anselm of Canterbury. These theologians, who taught in European universities like the Sorbonne, which had only recently been established as places of religious learning, wanted to reconcile Aristotle's ideas with their own faith. But they knew very little else about classical philosophy, and the humanists of the centuries that followed criticized them for using classical texts to tease out fine points of rational analysis, rather than considering the questions they raised about the natural world and the human condition. The universities of Western Europe remained bastions of scholasticism until well into the Renaissance, while the philosophical interests of the humanists leaned more toward the Stoic philosophy, which had been popular throughout the Roman Empire, and which they were now rediscovering by reading Cicero and the philosopher Seneca. Western Europe's unfamiliarity with Greek literature began to reverse itself in the late 15th century when refugees from the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, which had been conquered by the Ottoman Turks in 1453, came to settle in Italy, where they began to teach Greek and to translate into Latin ancient works which had never ceased to be read in the Byzantine world. They also helped to prepare old Greek manuscripts for the early printing presses of Europe, which made them available to a wider audience. While the Italian Renaissance is generally dated to the 14th century, there was also a Northern Renaissance which began in England, Germany, France, Holland, and Scandinavia in the 16th and 17th centuries. Unlike Italy, most of these countries had been on the fringes of the classical world, and the languages they spoke were unrelated to Latin, but this did not prevent them from developing a sense of kinship with the ancients, and the Germans in particular gravitated toward Greek art and literature. The effects of the early Renaissance were not limited to literature and art. The independent cities of northern Italy made an effort to revive the political rights associated with the Roman Republic, though it was only later on, in the 16th century, that writers like the French Rabelais, the Dutch Erasmus, and the English Thomas More brought Greek ideas about the ideal state and human rights into discussions of political and social reform. Now that we're done with Western Europe, let's move on to the Eastern states with which it had such close political, military, and economic ties, starting with the largest of these states, the Byzantine Empire. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.